Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra San. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Sagarakaryavasam created an unwanted crisis within the government. The President and the Prime Minister should defeat these attempts. 8 constituent parties of the SLPP lash out. Proposal to ban importation of vehicles powered by fuel and promote electric vehicles. Reduce fuel prices immediately. Opposition protests price hike. Captain of the sunken ship produced before court, released on a personal bail.
On to our lead story now. Several new judicial appointments were made by the President today.
President of the Court of Appeal Arjun Obesekara was sworn in as the judge of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka before the President at the Presidential Secretariat today. Meanwhile, according to the President's Media Division, Court of Appeal Judge Priyantha Fernando was sworn in as the new President of the Court of Appeal. High Court Judge Shashi Mahendran was sworn in as a judge of the Court of Appeal as well.
8 constituent parties of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna have condemned the attempts being made to blame the Energy Minister for the fuel price hike.
In a joint statement, these constituent parties said the decision to increase fuel prices in the country was made by the Cabinet Subcommittee on the Cost of Living, which was chaired by the President and attended by the Prime Minister. They state that SLPP General Secretary Attorney at Law Sagarakaryavasam in a statement holding Minister Uday Gammanpila responsible for the unpopular decision had placed the government in a very difficult position in the presence of the people. It added that the statement made by the SLPP General Secretary challenging the decision made by the President and the Prime Minister raises concern among the public over divisions within the ruling party. The constituent parties pointed out that such actions eventually lead to the collapse of the faith placed in the government by the people. The joint statement was issued by Venerable Athuraliya Ratanathera from the Ape Janabala Party, Minister Vimal Weerawansa from the National Freedom Front, Minister Vasudeva Nanayakara from the Democratic Left Front, Parliamentarian Professor Tissa Vitarana from the Lanka Samasamaja Party, Parliamentarian A.L.A. Mataula from the National Congress, and Dr. G. Veerasinghe from the Communist Party of Sri Lanka, Tiran Nalas from the Mahajana Eksat Peramuna, and Asanka Navaratne from the Sri Lanka People's Party.
The stance of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party was explained by the party General Secretary Dayasiri Jayasekara.
This is a decision taken by the Cabinet of Ministers. This issue cannot be resolved by blaming Minister Uday Gammanpila. People in villages are blaming the government for the lack of fertilizer. If that is the case, then Minister Mahindanandalut Gamage and the President who presented this proposal must be held responsible for this. If we look at this issue like that, all ministers of the government must resign. This was collectively decided by the Cabinet and not a decision reached according to the whims and fancies of an individual.
I believe
that it would have been better if the General Secretary of the SLPP, Sagarakaryavasam, communicated the stance of the party to Minister Gammanpila or the Finance Ministry directly and not announced their stance to the media. We need to protect ourselves collectively.
This is a government formed by the coalition of a number of parties. There may be many proposals, but we present our proposals collectively. The President and the Prime Minister will solve this, so there is nothing to worry about.
Basil Rajapaksa is a person who speaks directly if he has something to say. If Basil Rajapaksa was here, he would have not allowed for the fuel prices to be increased. He would have stood up for that. Sagarakaryavasam had cracked under the pressure that came from the lower levels of the party. If Basil Rajapaksa wanted, he would have spoken to the President or the Prime Minister.
Basil Rajapaksa මහතා හිටියන මේ දිල් වල වැඩි වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලාත් යම් කතා මතුවෙනවා අපි දැක්කා.
That cannot happen as the decision of fuel prices is taken by the Committee on Cost of Living. That is a state committee and Basil Rajapaksa is not on that committee. It was on the 12th of this month that the General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Attorney at Law Sagara Karyawasam, issued a statement citing that Minister of Energy Uday Gammanpila must take accountability for increasing fuel prices and resign from his position. In a response to that statement, Minister Uday Gammanpila has challenged General Secretary Sagara Karyawasam to an open debate.
All I did was announce a collective decision taken by the President, Prime Minister and the entire government. I volunteered to do this dangerous task to protect the President and the Prime Minister. But what did the General Secretary of the Pohottuwa do? He released a statement on a letterhead carrying the image of the Prime Minister while attacking the Prime Minister. So Sagara Karyawasam has made a huge mistake by acting against the decision made by them. MP Sagara Karyawasam. Now who should really resign? Is it you or I?
It was informed to media that a press briefing would be held at 10 a.m. this morning, convened by Attorney at Law Sagara Karyawasam and Minister Gamini Lokuge at the SLPP headquarters. However, it was later informed that the press briefing had been postponed. When Newsfirst inquired the General Secretary of the SLPP of this move, he said that no one has influenced this decision and that he will respond to the challenge posted by Minister Uday Gammanpila. Meanwhile, the President's media unit, issuing a release yesterday, said that attention had been focused on many reasons behind the increase of fuel prices at a cost of living committee meeting. The release further added that the cost of living committee convened under the auspices of the President, the Prime Minister and the subject ministers. The release noted that the decision taken to increase the price of fuel had been reached as a vital component in the program to strengthen the local economy. The people are not expecting politicians to unite to destroy the political journey of a person. Understand the expectations of the people and act according to that. That is all we ask of the government.
If Gammanpila and Veeravansa visited the ancestral home, they must know their place there. They must know that if the people who were brought there to work in the kitchen and toilet start coming to the hall, this is the treatment that they will get from Basil Rajapaksa. If they continue to act out, they will be dragged from their ears and kicked out of the house. After the blame for a collective decision is put on your head, Minister Gammanpila, if you have any shame, you should resign.
I saw the minister on the television asking who is Sagara Karyawasam and saying that he hasn't even heard about him. The minister does not know the name of the person who signed his nomination. Karyawasam is the person who signed his nomination. These people are just trying to fool the people by saying things like this, and we condemn these actions. As the opposition, we will not even hesitate to even bring a motion of no confidence in Parliament.
People who are writing your scripts are incompetent. The actors of the play are also incompetent. Prices of fuel have been increased by 20 rupees. Reduce the price of fuel without speaking about these pointless things.
It is said that in a Perahara, the bicycles decorated with flowers are sent before the Kavadi dancers. They have sent the bicycles decorated with flowers through the increase of fuel prices. The Kavadi dancers will come next. When the prices of water, power and all other essential food items increase, your lies will be revealed. There is only one thing left for this government to do, and that is to resign.
The President Media Division says that many proposals aimed at changing the import-dependent pattern of consumption of fuel are being implemented. Now, according to the communique issued by the President's Media Division, a total ban on importing vehicles that run on fuel are among these proposals.
According to the President's Media Division, a large amount of foreign currency is spent on the import of fuel. In 2019 alone, the annual expenditure on fuel imports was $3.677 billion. Even at a time when the country was on lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic and global crude oil prices were at an all-time low, expenditure on fuel imports was $2.325 billion. The President's Media Division states that an estimated $4 billion would be spent on fuel imports this year. The communique further highlights that while such large sums are spent on fuel imports, The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is in debt to two state banks to the tune of 652 billion rupees. The communique issued by the President's Media Division last evening states that many proposals have been submitted to change the current consumption pattern of fuel. Among the proposals are stopping the importation of new vehicles powered with fuel, as well as promoting the use of electric vehicles and providing electric engines for three-wheelers, converting the Kalnithissa power station into an LNG power plant, converting railway services to be powered by electricity, and providing solar thermal power kits to every household, school, hospital and government buildings. These proposals are aimed at reducing the cost on fuel imports in the country.
විශාල ණයක් වෙලා තියෙනවා ඛනිජ තෙල් නීතිගත සංස්ථාව රාජ්‍ය බැංකුවට.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has a massive debt to settle at two state banks and that there is a risk of the banking system collapsing. But against such a backdrop, the Bank of Ceylon opened letters of credit to import 339 luxury vehicles worth billions. The funniest part in the President's statement is when it says that the importation of vehicles powered by fuel will be reduced after considering factors such as environment pollution caused by them. It says that the prices of fuel was increased as a part of that plan. Then are those vehicles that were to be imported for MPs also electric vehicles or vehicles that run on water? Those vehicles run on fuel. So when these luxury vehicles are imported for MPs, economic plans are not applicable. But when dollar reserves are low and the people are burdened because of it, all of these reasons are applicable.
මේව ඔක්කොම අදාළයි. පොසිල් ඉන්ධන දහනය නිසා විශාල ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවා. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නෙට උත්තරේ හොයන්නේ මේ විදිහට නෙමෙයි.
ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ආණ්ඩුවේ ප්‍රශ්නේ මේ විදේශ විනිමය කිංග. ඒක නිසා තමයි.
The real problem faced by the government is a lack of foreign currency reserves. That is why the importation of vehicles was stopped and then importation of items such as palm oil and fertilizer was banned. That is the same reason why the prices of fuel are being increased. We need to find a solution to our depleting foreign reserves. How much of money do we have to pay for our debts in the coming 12 months? We only have around $4 billion US. Then there are the Sri Lankan development bonds, that is about another 500 to 600 million in annual premiums and interest. The annual due of the government is more than the total amount in the reserves, although they say that we will get 1.5 billion US from China as a swap. We did not receive a single dollar. We only received 60 billion Chinese yuans. So we cannot use this money to pay back that loan I told you about. Since we don't have the required foreign reserves, we are in a crisis. It is to solve this issue that the government is now seeking temporary solutions. This is not an issue that can be solved in such a way. They have now brought forward this story on developing the local economy and have sold it to the people. The government has no alternative but to go to the International Monetary Fund. No one is going to save us. Who will come to save us? If China wanted to save us, they would give us about $5 billion US and save us from this mess.
මෙලහට චීනෙන් අපිට ඩොලර් බිලියන 5ක් විතර දීලා මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙන් අපිව ගොඩාන. එහෙම කරන්න කවුරුත් නැහැ.
මිනිස්සුන්ට තුන් වේල කන්න විදියක් නැතුව ඉන්නකොට
At a time when the people don't have money to eat 3 meals a day, are they supposed to buy electric vehicles? Who are they going to sell these electric vehicles to? Who is going to buy them? We can see the cat slowly jumping out of the bag. There must be some person close to the government involved in importing electric vehicles. They have got that bit in as well. We know you have spent over 5 billion to import 300 to 400 vehicles. Are those electric vehicles? We should purchase electric vehicles while the elite travel in Prados, V8s, BMWs and Mercedes-Benz. They will use those vehicles. Are those vehicles powered by water?
අපිට දැන් ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් වාහන ගනින් ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ප්‍රභූවරු ප්‍රාඩෝයි V8යි BMW Benz මේවා ටික ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒවා පාවිච්චි කරන්න. ඒවට මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? ඒවට ගහන්නේ මොනවද වතුරද?
ඉතින් යහපාලන ආණ්ඩුවෙන් වැටුණු මිනිහට රාජපක්ෂ ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ඇන්නාසේ කියලා තමයි මේ කතාව අපිට කියන්න සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. අයියයි මල්ලි දෙන්නම කියනවා.
Both the younger and older brother are saying that there was nothing else to do. The CPC was suffering losses, so they had to take this decision. They say they took this decision for the benefit of the future of the country.
කිතුලට නැගපු මිනිහට අර නිදහසට කරුණා තිබුණේ. ආන්නේ වගේ තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩුවේ කතාව. එහෙනම් දැන් മന്ത്രിවරුන්ට ඇමතිවරුන්ට ඔන්න ගෙන.
If they imported electric vehicles for their MPs, that would have been all right. The truth is, they tried to import vehicles valued in the billions for MPs even before the cabinet granted approval for it. Change the name of the cost of living committee to the committee that draws the life out of the people.
සැලසීමේ කමිටුව. මේ කමිටුවේ නම වෙනස් කරන්න. මොකක්ද? ජීවත් වෙන මිනිස්සුන්ගේ රීරි මාංශේ උරා බොන්නන්ගේ කමිටුව කියලා ඔකට නමක් දාගන්න.
The leader of the opposition, Sajid Premadasa, says the government needs to put an end to antics and immediately decrease oil prices. In a statement, the leader of the opposition said that a few hours after the secretary of the SLPP issued a highly ludicrous announcement regarding the move to increase fuel prices, the presidential media unit had issued an equally absurd announcement. Sajid Premadasa says the government, which has imposed an intolerable burden on the lives of the people at this moment in time, has brought up a baseless argument that it increased fuel prices to encourage local production. The statement says that the government, which banned the importation of fertilizer claiming to support local industries, is on the verge of importing fertilizer. The opposition leader points out that the government saying that they were supporting the local productions by increasing the price of fuel is absurd. He adds that the true inhumane nature of the government can be properly seen now because of the decision to increase fuel prices and to import luxury vehicles despite the state the public is in. Mentioning the statement made by Minister Bandula Gunawardena on the 19th of May 2019, where he said that an oil price stabilization fund will be established to direct the surplus of an oil price reduction, which can be used to benefit the public in case of a price hike, and questions what became of it.
The members of the opposition staged this protest opposite the Kotikavatta Mull area of Pradeshiya Sabha premises against the increase of fuel prices and the cost of living. However, the protest was called off midway due to the fumigation process carried out in the vicinity. We are demanding the government to reduce the price of fuel as the opposition MPs of the Mull area of Pradeshiya Sabha. Reduce the price of fuel and provide compensation for the people in this difficult situation. The government is planning to increase the price of gas as well. Please stop that. Due to the tense situation that arose in the chamber, sessions were postponed for several minutes. Several protests were staged across the island opposing the decision to increase fuel prices. A demonstration was carried out in Yatiyantota today.
එදා ජනතාවෙන් ඇහුවා අද බඩු මිල කොහොමද කියලා. ජනතාවෙන් ඇහුවා සැපද කියලා. දැන් ජනතාවට හොඳටම සැපයි කියලා තමයි අපිට මේ අවස්ථාවේදී කියන්න තියෙන්නේ.
A protest organized by MP Rohana Bandara was held in Anuradhapura today. Now the 6.9 million mandate has reduced to 1.9 million. If you can't govern the country responsibly, please hand over that responsibility to some who can back down honorably. Another protest organized by the former Southern Provincial Councillor Chatura Galappathy was carried out opposite the party office in Pamburana, Matara. Chatura Galappathy and two of his supporters protested on top of a nearby tree.
බලයට පත්වෙච්ච දවසේ ඉඳන් කරපු හොඳක් නැහැ. මේ ආණ්ඩුව ගෙදර යවන්න අද මේ රටේ ජනතාව පෙළ ගැහිලි ඉවරයි. ඔය ගෑස් මිලත් වැඩි කරාම ආණ්ඩුව සම්පූර්ණයි.
A silent protest opposing the increase in fuel prices organized by the All Ceylon Fisheries Federation was held in the Rekava fishing port.
ඉතින් ඔය තෙල් ලීටර 80කට බලන්න හත ගාන කීයක් වැඩි වෙනවද කියලා අපිට දවසකට. දවසකට අපිට ආදායම රුපියල් 1000ක් හොයාගෙන බැරි සයිස් එක දැන් ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. අපිට දැන් මේ මරම් මැරෙන තත්ත්වයකටපත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දවසකට රුපියල් 6000ක 7000ක තෙල් ගහනවා අපි. ඒකෙන් රුපියල් 800ක් 700ක් අපිට වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. අපි කොහොමද පුංචියවත් එක්ක රුපියල් 5000යි රජය දෙනවා කියලා අපි ඒව ගන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. අපි විදේශ මිනිමේ රටට ගේන කට්ටිය.
පොඩි උන් දෙන්න තුන් දිනක් ඉන්න ගෙදරක ජීවත් වෙන්න කොහමද කියලා එක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. එදා ඉඳලා තිබ්බ තෙල් මිල අපි හිතන් උන්නේ පොඩ හරි මේ.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Sri Lanka is renowned for its pristine beaches and vast marine life, which includes dolphins and turtles, which are popular tourist attractions. However, by today, Sri Lanka's marine life has been dealt a killer blow. As seen in the recent past, a number of carcasses of marine animals had washed ashore in several parts of Sri Lanka's coastline. The most recent incident was reported today when carcasses of turtles and dolphins were discovered from a number of areas. Now, before we move on to that news item, let's first take a look at some of the views expressed by Justice Minister Ali Sabri during a media briefing today.
Today, the Colombo High Court ordered to release the captain of the Express Pearl container ship on a personal bond of 2 million rupees. He was arrested this morning by the Criminal Investigations Department and was produced before the Colombo Chief High Court Judge Damit Thotavatta. The Russian captain of the Express Pearl was barred from travelling overseas and was ordered to surrender his passport to the court as well. The case will be called up again on the 1st of July. Meanwhile, the media briefing was held this afternoon at the Ministry of Justice to apprise the public of the decisions taken regarding the sunken MV Express Pearl vessel.
Upon a request of the Attorney General, this group of ministers have decided to grant the opportunity for people who have been affected by this incident to receive compensation to the damages that have been caused to them. A separate committee has been appointed for that. We will advertise this on print media and in other places and will come up with a system for the impacted people to seek compensation for the losses that they have incurred. Although committees have been appointed to look into different sectors, there is a chance that the general public who are not included in those different sectors could have been impacted by this. They can come forward and claim the damage. After they have provided the necessary documents, we will look into it and provide them with the necessary concessions.
Views were expressed about the garbage that is being washed up on the Sri Lankan coastal line at the media briefing as well.
What we have to keep in mind is that Sri Lanka is an island. There are currents around the coast, so small particles of garbage can float to greater distances. Only the specialists on these matters can determine as to how serious this situation is.
ප්‍රශ්න ගැටලුකාරී තත්ත්වයන් තියෙනවා කියලා. එහෙම අවධානමක් තියෙද්දි මේ අවධානම වළක්වා නොගැනීමක් නෙවෙයි මේ.
නෑ ඔබතුමාට ඒ තොරතුරු ලැබුණේ කොහොමද කියන එක මට නම් පැහැදිලිතාවයක් නැහැ.
It is not clear to me as to how you received such information. As the subject minister, the information we received was that one container on board this vessel, which was anchored at the outer harbour of our seas, had experienced a leak. That is why the ship was anchored in the outer harbour in the first place. Then, at night, they said that a smoke is emitting from the container and a fire had erupted. That is what they said to our harbour master. If they had given us more information, the Sri Lanka Ports Authority could have adhered to a better methodology to control this situation. Dead marine creatures were found in several locations, including Kaluthara, Vallavatta, Pamanugama and Chilau. A dead turtle has been discovered a short while ago at the Vallavatta beach. According to our correspondent, the carcass of the animal had been taken to the custody of officials attached to the Bellangila Attidia Zonal Wildlife Office. A mature turtle carcass had washed ashore to the Morogolla beach in Alutkama today. The turtle that weighed close to 50 kilograms is believed to have washed ashore last night. The carcass has been taken into the custody of the Morogolla lifeguards for further testing. Meanwhile, 3 turtle carcasses were discovered from the Chilau beach today. The carcasses have been taken into custody of the Anavilundava Wildlife Office and facts are to be reported to the Chilau court. Another dead turtle had washed ashore to the Udappua beach today. A dead dolphin was found in the shore in the vicinity of the Calido beach in Kaluthara. It is suspected that the animal had died 3 days ago. Another dead dolphin had washed ashore at the Kalpitia beach yesterday.
Farmers and experts continue to raise red flags about a possible food shortage in the future as a result of the ongoing fertilizer crisis in the country.
The paddy fields in Agbopura in Kantale have all been infested with weeds.
ගොයමට වැඩිය තියෙන තන කොරේ දැන් අක්කර 200ක් විතර දැන් තියෙනවා 200ම එක සාමාන්‍යයෙන්
This is the state of the paddy cultivation. This is what we have to go through, and this is what we are left with. We cannot harvest at least 50 bags of rice. The people are helpless. The farmers are deceived. If these people do not provide the compensation, we will go to their homes to get it. We cannot be deceived. We are traditional farmers.
The farmers of the Navagama area in Vaunia are also facing a similar situation.
We cannot hope for a solution from this government and from these ministers. They say there is fertilizer everywhere in the country. We have not received fertilizer. Has this man ever got into a field before making such statements? They say there is fertilizer in the morning and go back on the word by evening. These people who become ministers have no clue about agriculture.
Experts warn that due to the shortage of fertilizer this season, the harvest of this season will be reduced rapidly and a food shortage may occur in the future. We will get the yalla harvest in a few months now. It is very clear that this country will have to face a huge food shortage due to the reduction in the harvest. In addition to this food shortage, there could be a sharp rise in food prices. I believe with this increase in food prices, the poor in this country will have to face a huge problem in obtaining food. The reason for this is that we are now in the midst of a pandemic.
The Bhutanese government was primarily involved in such a task back in the day. But by 2018, they realized that they were gradually becoming a country that is increasingly importing food. They import about 63% of the rice they need, about 21% of the corn they require, and about 23% of the vegetables they need.
Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardana said that steps will be taken to prevent the delay in COVID-19 death reports from today onwards. The daily COVID-19 death reports provided by the Ministry of Health included the total number of deaths that occurred during the recent past. However, we have now made arrangements to compile reports that will consist of the number of COVID-19 deaths that occurred within a 24-hour window. Accordingly, arrangements will be made to provide reports of the deaths that occur within 24 and 48 hours.
Have the travel restrictions shown positive results?
We will only be able to see the impact of the travel restrictions imposed after a week or two. However, we have also included a mechanism to conduct PCR tests in our circular as well. The decisions regarding the extension of travel restrictions will only be made based on the results of the PCR test that we will receive within this week.
Venerable Matale Sasana Ratana Thero engaged in a protest opposite the Dambulla Economic Centre this morning.
A two-thirds majority was given to Gotabaya. Now we are seeing the repercussions of it. People across the country are hungry now. My only request is for this curfew to be lifted. This is a scam. Put the country under lockdown once and not open the country up for only a day or two. Afterwards, Mayor of Dambulla, Jalia Opatha, arrived at the location. The travel restrictions were to be lifted today. Was it lifted today? I waited patiently until the 14th. If the country is open today, the roads will be filled with vehicles and shops will be open. Will that not help the spread of COVID-19? Isn't COVID-19 in money, bakeries and bakery items? Afterwards, the Thero was escorted by the mayor himself to his office.
ලංකාව මාරින්න මිනිත්තු බඩගින්නේ වැරෙනවා. ඔය බඩු මල්ලට හිඟා ගන්න මිනිත්තු නෑ. ඒ හොඳයි හිඟන්න. ඔබතුමා ලේකම් වුණාට ඔය විටපැටි ලේකම්ලා හිටියා මගේ ළඟ. අයියලා මල්ලිලා ගත්තා.
Brothers took over the country to develop it. We are left to beg after voting for them. You are the secretary. There is no point in holding you accountable. You deliver this message.
පණිවිඩය දෙන්න මම ඇඩ්‍රස් එක තමයි දුන්නේ.
Venerable Matale Shasanaratana Thero left the location after providing a statement to the police.
In news that made it to the headlines globally, after 12 years in power, Benjamin Netanyahu has been ousted as the Israeli Prime Minister as the country's parliament gave its vote of confidence to a coalition government stitched together by anti-Netanyahu forces. Israeli new Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has promised to unite a nation frayed by years of political stalemate.
Israel's parliament approved the new government by just a single vote, 60 to 59, with one abstention. Yair Lapid, a centrist leader, is set to take Bennett's place after 2 years. They lead an 80-party alliance ranging from left to right, from secular to religions, that agrees on little but a desire to oust Benjamin Netanyahu, the longest-serving leader in the country's history, and to end Israel's lengthy political gridlock. It was a watershed moment for politics in Israel, where Benjamin Netanyahu had served as Prime Minister for a total of 15 years, including the last 12 years uninterrupted. Even out of government and standing trial on corruption charges, Netanyahu remains a formidable force who will likely to drive wedges between the coalition parties. He remains the leader of the parliamentary opposition and a cagey tactician with a sizable following and powerful allies. Israel has held 4 inconclusive elections in 2 years and has gone much of that time without a state budget, fueling disgust among voters with the nation's politics.
And that's the wrap of this edition of Primetime News. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Hassan, with our sign language interpreter Brian De Cruz joining us via Zoom. Stay with Newsfirst. Up next, we'll be Face the Nation, discussing the economic challenges faced by Sri Lanka. Take care and good night.